Hey everyone, so today we're going to start working on solving two-step equations now that we have mastered solving one-step equations. So a two-step equation is very similar to a one-step, but instead of it requiring one step to solve, it requires two steps to solve. So here's an example of a two-step equation. There's two operations here. We see multiplication and then we also see subtraction. So when we see two operations, that means we're probably going to have to use two inverse operations to solve. So let's take a look at an example. So we're going to show our math on this side, and we're going to show the steps on this side. It says solve the following equation. We have 2x plus 3 equals 25. So the first step is to move the constant first with either addition or subtraction first. So we are basically going to do the reverse of order of operations, where addition and subtraction usually came last. We're doing the opposite, so it's going to come first. And to refresh your memory, a constant is a number by itself. So if we take a look at our equation, we actually have two constants here. We have 3, because that doesn't have a variable next to it, and then we have 25. That doesn't have a variable next to it. So you have to think about, which one do I want to move? Are we going to move the 25 or are we going to move the 3? And to know which one you're going to move, you have to think about the goal here. It's to get the variable isolated by itself. So when we want to get something by itself, we have to move things away from it, not towards it, right? So we don't want to bring the 25 closer to the x. We want to bring this 3 further away from the x. So that's how we know we're going to move the 3. So we're going to move everything that's next to that variable away from it. Okay, so when I'm solving equations, the first thing that I like to do is draw my train tracks, because I know what I do on one side of the train tracks, I have to do to the other side. So we're going to move our constant, the one that's close to the variable, which we decided is 3. We're going to use the inverse operation. So the inverse of adding 3 is subtracting 3. So I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides. These 3's cancel out. Remember, that's the goal. And 25 minus 3 gives us 22. So I'm going to just write that right here. Okay. Now we're going to bring down whatever we did not touch, which includes this 2x over here and our equal sign. So now we have 2x equals 22, which hopefully looks familiar. That's a one-step equation now. So the second step is to then apply the inverse of operations of multiplication or division second. So normally it's either going to be multiplication or division. Hopefully you see here that 2x is the same as saying 2 times x. So that's multiplication, and we want to do the inverse of multiplication, which is division. So we are going to divide by 2 on both sides. These 2's cancel here. And then 22 divided by 2 is 11 on this side. And I'm going to just bring down that x equals. So that is our answer. X equals 11. We subtracted the 3 to move it to this side, and we got 22. And then we divided by 2 on both sides. We get x equals 11. So the last step here is, is to check your work by substitution. So the great thing about equations is you can always check your work very easily. You just take your x value or whatever you just solved for and substitute it back into your original equation to see if you got the right answer. So that's what we're going to do right underneath. So our original equation was 2x plus 3 equals 25. So now I'm going to just substitute this 11 in for x. So I'm going to get 2 times 11 plus 3 equals 25. Now 2 times 11 is 22. I'm going to just bring down that 3 and then equals 25. And then we know 22 plus 3 is 25. So we see that 25 equals 25. So that means that this answer is correct, because when we substituted in, we ended up getting what we wanted to, which in this case was 25. So let's take a look at another example. Here we have 6 plus 3x equals negative 9. So I want you to constantly refer back to these steps, because this is going to help you solve equations in the future. So the first step is to move the constant. And we're always going to move the constant that is on the same side as the variable. So first, I want to draw these train tracks. And we're going to move the constant. So we're not going to move the -9 because that's already by itself. And we're not going to move the 3x because this isn't a constant. It has a variable next to it. We're going to move this 6. So that is a positive 6. So to get that to cancel out, we're going to have to subtract 6 on both sides. Okay, so here we know that cancels out. I'm going to bring this 3x down. So we get 3x equals, and now we have -9 minus 6. They're both negative, so same signs, add and keep. We can add them together, keep it negative, and 9 plus 6 is 15. Okay, so we moved that constant, and now we have that one-step equation where we still have the variable on this side and constant on this side. So the last step here is to divide, because this is the same as saying 3 times x, so inverse operations. Divide by 3. That cancels, bring down your x, bring down your equal sign, and then -15 divided by 3 is -5. Don't forget that a negative divided by a positive is a negative. Now to check this, we can substitute it. So I'm going to just do that real quick on the side. So we had 6 plus 3x equals -9. I'm going to plug -5 in for x to see what we get. So 6 plus 3, instead of writing x, I'm substituting and I'm writing -5. Very similar to when we were evaluating expressions. And let's see if that gives us -9. 3 times -5 gives us -15. Bring down the 6, bring down the -9. And then 6 minus 15 gives us -9. So we know that we got the right answer here. Okay, let's look at one more example. So here we have -4x minus 8 equals -12. Let's start it out by drawing those train tracks. Whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. We're going to move the constant that's on the same side as that variable. So our constant here would be this -8. Inverse operations, let's add 8 to both sides. That cancels. Bring down that -4x. Please don't forget that sign. That negative sign has to come down with the 4x. Now -12 plus 8, different signs. We subtract, keep the sign of the larger amount. So that's going to give us -4. And then the last step, divide. We're going to divide by -4. Not just 4, it has to be -4. Because remember, the goal is to make sure our variable is by itself and positive at the same time. So a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So that would just give us positive x equals, and then -4 divided by -4 is a +1. Negative divided by negative is positive. Let's go ahead and check that real quick just to make sure that we got the right answer. -4x minus 8 equals -12. I'm going to plug in that 1 wherever we see an x. So we have -4 times 1 minus 8 equals -12. -4 times 1, anything times 1 is just itself. So we get -4. Bring anything else you didn't use, bring that down, and we get -12 equals -12. So we know we're right. All right, so two-step equations, do that addition or subtraction first to get that constant on the other side, and then you do that multiplication or division second.